Hey, team players, here we are breaking down another edition of Fantasy Football, getting ready for the upcoming season. And the reason to care about local football flavor is we're winners and we build leagues for champions here. And follow us throughout the season, and we're going to break down, obviously, the in-week discussions. But the starting point of any championship is building the draft successfully. And we are going through ESPN's top 200. This is what they had their 14th round for a standard PPR 10-person league. And this is what we're breaking down right now based upon the information we have here as we're recording this in the beginning of June. So one of the things that need to staple why we're recording this in the beginning of June is the league is Madison will not be in the 14th round of any league that you are in because Dalvin Cook ain't there anymore. It's pretty straightforward. Madison is going to be a top 5 rounder, probably higher than that.
Probably second round.
Yeah. So by default, he's first on this list right now. But we're going to dive into the rest of them and see where they should be.
I don't really even think we need to dive into the rest of these players because we have already talked a lot about our feelings in regards to Stafford, Goff, and Trey McBride. When you take a look at those 3 players statistically, out of all of them, Jared Goff has your best potential to repeat the type of performance that he had last year. Stafford, on the other hand, has a chance to become better than what his metrics were last year. But the metrics are all trending in that we are getting a quarterback that is more and more prone to interceptions, more and more prone to turn the ball over. So even if he throws for 30 touchdowns next year with Cooper Kupp and Higbee, there's a very good chance that he also throws 21 interceptions. So I think if you're looking for a quarterback this deep, the only reason you might take Stafford is if you took Patrick Mahomes and you need to take a second quarterback or you're required to take a second quarterback. But you can honestly keep waiting. Jared Goff is one of my favorite quarterbacks this year. I don't think he's going to be sitting here
He could be. A lot of people are down on Goff.
He should be taken, I think, above Cousins. I think he should be taken above Tua.
For sure.
But realistically, he's not. So
so you get value by waiting.
I think at year's end, we're going to see that Goff just puts together another solid season. I think we're going to see that Stafford struggled, and I think that in this round particularly, Trey Lance is a.
I think there's a good chance Trey Lance never takes a snap in the NFL.
I think it's a non-option. I think if you're with what we know about Brock Purdy and what Brock Purdy's injury was.
San Francisco has said they want Purdy to play every snap.
Exactly. We know that they want Purdy in. And Trey Lance, to even think about him, you're thinking about him in your very last round. If you want to take a flyer pick on something, let somebody else take control there. Rashad Bateman, again, I don't think Rashad Bateman is a really good play here. Low upside. Low floor.
They just brought in 2 players better than him on the roster.
Exactly, and I don't even think ESPN has ranked Odell Beckham yet.
They have not.
I'm not sure why that's the case. But
because he's not good.
But Rashad Bateman is not an option for you. I would let somebody else take care of that.
I wouldn't. I don't want Beckham either, but I do think Beckham should be rated ahead of Bateman.
When we look at the other players here, we have Mooney. I think Mooney has a strong comeback potential.
Not a chance.
You're looking at a player that you have more. You have Mooney. Mooney was set up to be a new guy for the Bears organization. Injuries happened. He didn't play as much as we wanted him to. Chase Claypool came in. Chase Claypool also sucked. And
he needs a quarterback to throw the ball in tight windows, and Justin Fields flat out is not capable.
This is the reason, though, I'm mentioning his name right now, is that all of these players, Mooney, Bateman, Lance, Stafford, all do not draft. These are guys that you are going to stay away from, that you need to stay away from because you are going to want to put them in your lineup. You're going to want to start Bateman in a flex. You're going to want to start Mooney in a flex.
And they will cost you games.
I'm telling you right now that you don't want to start them in your flex.
And the easiest way to avoid the temptation is never to bring it onto your team.
Is to never draft them. If you go in, Joe, and we look at where Darnell Mooney ranked at the end of last season, even with all of these injuries, And let's see if we can even find him. I'll find him on the page here. You're looking at Darnell Mooney as the 50th ranked wide receiver last year, or projection wise for this year, 50th wide receiver. And his game stats last year, he's looking at 1 reception, 2 receptions, 4, 2, 7, 3, 5, 7, 4, 4.
Sounds like a quarterback who can't get him the ball.
And 2 touchdowns. So, I mean, and then you look at Bateman, and Bateman's going to treat you the same way.
Yeah, he is. I mean, when people think about Bateman, they're like, oh, well, he's better than Duvernay. He's not better than the rookie that they brought in. And you guys all have heard about how I am against rookie wide receivers. Rashad Bateman's not better than Flowers.
Bateman played in 5 games, okay? And these were the 5 games where Lamar was playing, okay? First game was his best game, 4 receptions, 108 yards, and a touchdown.
Best game's 4 receptions.
Then we have 2, 3, 4, and then his injury, so 0.
Yeah, so you look at the Baltimore. We look at Baltimore's receiving core overall, and I think this is a good moment to hit here. They say they want to go throwing the ball like crazy. They say they're going to make Lamar the best passer in the league. That's what they said at his giving him all the money, which is laughable in and of itself. But Odell Beckham has been designed to break up locker rooms if he doesn't get the ball thrown his way accurately. He has destroyed his last 2 stops. Lamar Jackson is not an accurate quarterback, and Odell Beckham does not get open by himself anymore. I do not believe that the Baltimore throwing the ball as a way to win is something that they will do. They are still coached in a winning fashion with a Hall of Fame coach. When he recognizes they don't successfully get the ball downfield, it's going to be a running team. On top of that, they have the worst pass blocking team in the NFL possibly. They lost all of their best pass blockers, and their line is in crumbles. So aside from that, it's like a crumbly cookie, baby. Crumbly cookie. That thing is falling apart, and if you want to get through it, you can. So I look at this and say, aside from the fact that your loudmouth receiver will blow up your team, aside from the fact you can't cover Lamar, can't protect Lamar Jackson, and aside from the fact that your best player is runs a 4.8, how's it going to work out? So touching a Baltimore passing game to me seems ludicrous, except for Lamar, because you get credit for all of his running yards, which is what he'll inevitably take. But this to me brings up a bigger conversation for you. Obviously, we're hitting here in the 14th round out of 20. And we had the first kicker on the board. And my question for you isn't necessarily is 14 the right spot, but we also haven't had a defense come up yet, Bob. So how do you feel about taking the first player out of position, given the fact that so many of these rounds we've been discussing about there's guys I don't even want to touch? When does it start becoming acceptable to you to say, hey, I'll take the first kicker off the board. I'll take the first defense off the board, knowing that people put those off until the last couple rounds of a draft. When does it become worth considering to you?
I mean, Justin Tucker has been one of the best kickers in our generation at this point in time for fantasy football. I mean, there's no doubt that Baltimore is going to move the ball downfield. There's no doubt that they have the opportunity to score touchdowns.
Play a very weak schedule in the AFC North.
Justin Tucker is your best option. If you don't take Justin Tucker in, say, like we said, if you're doing 20 rounds, filling out a roster, and you don't take Justin Tucker now, you might as well just wait till the last round. And that's what many people do. There are people that I play with in my league where they don't even draft a kicker. They wait until the end of free agency, or they wait until the end of the offseason, pick up week 1 kicker and drop a guy that maybe was a camp darling that ends up missing the roster, and then taking a kicker. But
it's a way of gambling.
For all intents and purposes, we're getting into that part of the draft where we're going to be mentioning kickers,
and defenses,
kickers and defenses. But there's not. Kickers are really situationally dependent. Is that if you are going to be playing a weak schedule, you're probably going to be getting a lot of extra points. And so there were games last year, and I'm just pulling up Justin Tucker's stats here.
Baltimore made the playoffs, mind you, last year.
There were games last year. So his lowest scoring game was 4 points.
Mm-hmm.
All right, and that's an extra point and I believe a field goal. But
Could be four extra points.
He's kicking his maximum number of kicked extra points, field goals attempted last year. Or maximum number of field goals attempted last year is 5. He had 32 extra points attempted. Okay, so with a total of 164 points.
And the thing with Tucker is, you're not getting the negative points from him.
Right. Now, I'm going to go down into a lower tier here, and I'm going to take Seattle's kicker from last year, okay, Jason Myers, who's still there today. He had 42 extra points, okay, and 37 field goals attempted, made 34. So he had 159 points, and Justin Tucker was sitting at like 160, we said. You then go up to Buffalo, where they had a good kicking game, and 50 extra points, 28 field goals for 146 points. And Tyler Bass is your second-ranked kicker. So as I look at it and I say, okay, where do I want to draft a kicker at? Is I have the reliability of Justin Tucker. I know he's reliable. I know that he's a name that I can go to and I can say, okay, I'm going to slot him in every week. When he's on his bye week, I'm just going to pick up somebody else. But then I come down and I keep going down the list, and I look at a guy like Greg Joseph from Minnesota last year, who missed a lot of kicks. He was 26 for 33 with 46 extra points and 133 total points. And then a no-name. You got no-name players sometimes that come off the rip, and you're like, okay, well,
kicker world.
What's going to happen here? Like Chris Boswell, for example. Steelers didn't score a lot last year. We know this. He missed 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 games. Kicked 20 field goals, 28 out of 28, but only had 18 extra points.
So as a concept, though, when do you start considering attacking the kickers in the defense to get the number one on your team, to have the best defense, the best kicker on your team? When do you start considering that in relation to taking more long shots and hope that they pan out type players?
I mean, I'm a guy who really likes to have the best at each position. So I would consider taking Justin Tucker anywhere after I've got some players on my bench and a full starting roster. Same thing goes with defense, like San Francisco's defense. I would more likely take San Francisco's defense over Justin Tucker.
Okay.
But I'm not even thinking about that right now, because at this point in time, I'm still looking for players that...
So with 7 rounds left, it's too early.
Yeah, I'm still looking for players that I can trade for later. I'm still looking at players where I think that there's a decent amount of upside coming in. Or I'm thinking about players that, maybe they had a bad year last year and, there's still potential there. Because the difference between, let's say, Will Lutz last year, who was New Orleans kicker last year, and Justin Tucker, that difference is much higher because he, missed more field goals. So you gotta account for bad weather games. You gotta account for situations. Dome kickers tend to get a little bit more love. But Justin Tucker is a beast.
Justin Tucker's best kicker of all time.
I won't say he's best kicker of all time.
Yes. Look up stats.
He's close. But yeah, I'd consider taking him here, especially what's on the board. But out of these players, my number one, Madison has to be number one.
Yeah, that doesn't count anymore. But yeah,
it doesn't count anymore. Followed by Goff. I think if you're still looking for a quarterback, Goff is sitting here. He's looking very, very delicious at that point in time. Then you're looking at Gerald Everett. Gerald Everett, we didn't talk about him a lot, but he's a solid player. The targets there's going to be targets. There's going to be passing situations. Do I want Gerald Everett? No. If I have to take him, okay. There's a little bit of upside there. And then I'm looking at Trey McBride. Trey McBride has an upside too.
He does
to a degree. And then the rest,
especially if you're right about them just selling off Ertz.
Yeah, and then I'm looking at Justin Tucker. Justin Tucker is a highly, at this stage in the game, looking at the rest of the players on this board, that's a very good option. Then you're looking at Jaylen Warren and you're saying, okay, Najee, Jaylen Warren, I don't really want to touch Jaylen Warren. I really don't.
He doesn't get the ball. Even if Najee was hurt, as he was the whole first 7 games of the year, they still gave it to Najee.
So, this is a tier where I definitely consider taking a kicker. I would definitely consider it because the player talent level isn't, and this is the reason why to wait on a quarterback.
Yeah,
because you don't want to be stuck being the first guy taking a kicker.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
Yeah, so you could theoretically you could have stacked your team and say now I'm going to pick up maybe it's 2 quarterbacks instead of 1, but realistically the difference in point value that you're getting from Stafford or Goff or Cousins isn't going to be all that much, and that's the argument for just wait. Same with tight ends too, quite frankly. So I'm with you, Bob, here, and a lot of the crossover. Obviously, Madison has to be your number 1 dude by default. I do put a lot of stock in the Chargers passing game, knowing that the Chargers, being in the AFC West, are going to be in a lot of high-powered contests as it looks right now. The fact that they are playing, obviously, Kansas City twice, but they're also playing the entire AFC East. That right there is 6 games of high-scoring offenses, and potentially Denver gets you into a shootout as well. So I like having another pass catcher on a team that's going to score a bajillion points. So I give Everett the 2 nod there. I do like Goff more so than anyone else in the quarterback realm here, so he's going to be 3. Warren is getting the 4 for the reason of taking someone else's handcuff. If Najee goes down, Warren is the next man up, undisputed. He's the only other running back on the Steelers roster. So if there is legit injury where Najee actually is out, you're going to get some. But you will never get the Deontay Foreman in Chicago where he's just going to give you points when Najee's healthy, because that is not happening in Pittsburgh.
I just want to put this into perspective for you, Joe.
Perspective me.
Jared Goff last year had arguably one of the best seasons in his career.
Mm-hmm.
He put up about 290 fantasy points in standard PPR, because you don't really consider the PPR.
Doesn't matter.
Daniel Jones, who we've talked about 5 rounds ago, 4 rounds
if
ago,
not more,
5
yeah.
rounds ago, put up 293, and he had all those rushing numbers. Trevor Lawrence, who we talked about potentially 5th round, 6th round, 303. He put up an incredible year last year for himself. Tua, who you dislike and who many people love, missed 4 games last year, put up 239.
Mm-hmm.
And so you're looking and you're saying, okay, Russell Wilson, who was much maligned last year, 236.
So you're saying there's not really a difference?
I'm saying that and even if you go, here's Joe B, our friend Joe Burr, all right?
The future league MVP, Joe Burrow.
Joe Burrow, 369 points.
So there's value there. Burrow's the jump.
That's the difference.
Once you miss Burrow, just let it be. And take quarterbacks down here.
Herbie had 289, a down year for Herbie. And then you're looking at Justin Fields, who arguably had one of the best rushing game, 300.
Yeah.
So if you can't get one of those guys, it's perfectly possible that you just sit.
Same with tight ends.
Gather talent. And
you can do the exact same thing with Everett. You're going to see that Everett's in the exact same realm as anyone else. So getting the difference between Everett or getting some of the guys we just talked about in the last couple of rounds, Ertz or whatever, it's all basically the same. Tight ends on their absolute best day, unless, again, it's Kelsey, 5 catches, 50 yards, if you're lucky, a touchdown. That's the tight end world in the NFL. So why waste an extra valuable resource up front? And now in the 14th round is where we can start considering this, because as we talked about for about rounds 9 until now, it's all about hitting a home run on your bench that you can sell for a premium asset that's more consistent, or keeping the home run if you think he's going to last. Mm-hmm. And now we're getting to the point where there's not really any home runs left. Like Rashad Bateman's not going to be a home run. Mooney is not going to be anything. Mooney is basically going to be out of the NFL because he doesn't have a quarterback. So we look at this to go through the list from restarting here. Madison's number 1 by default. Then I'm going to go put Everett, Goff, Warren, I guess Tucker, McBride, Stafford, and then round it out from there with Lance being last. Because, again, I don't believe that Trey Lance is going to be the number 2 quarterback on his roster this year, let alone get any snaps in the league. So if you haven't already, click like and subscribe. Share us with your friends. And if you want to be part of our best ball league, reach out to us. Leave your information in the comments. We'll be setting that up as we approach August and kickoff later on in the year.